Today is Monday, September 8th, and this is Irish Illustrated Insider. I am Tim O'Malley, joined by Tim Priester of Irish Illustrated, as well as John Bryce of Football Scoop. Bye weekend is over, guys, and now the biggest game of Notre Dame season, at least for Irish fans, if not the program itself. Texas A&M comes to town, but we can all agree 1-1 and ranked 8 or higher is a far cry from 0-2 and out of the conversation for a couple of months. So for fans and media and analysts and anyone not named Marcus Freeman or Mike Elko, this is the biggest game of the season.
Well, 1-1 puts the Miami game in a completely different perspective. Now you're saying, that was a road 3-point loss on the road,
People are
bounce
already
back.
saying it nationally. They moved up.
Yeah, they did move up to number 8. You know, yeah, you need to put it behind you. 0-2 would be it's going to take a whole season to live that down. I think they'll play much better. And we anticipated Notre Dame would come out of the gate a lot faster than they did against Miami, and they didn't. But I'm pretty confident, especially with an extra week, that Marcus Freeman is going to pound it into them. That uh, it's full go time against the Aggies when they come to town this weekend.
JB, your thoughts on Mike Elko taking a third crack at Notre Dame? I know it's been all over our board, but I think some people forget that it is a third crack at Notre Dame because of the Duke affiliation. But 3 years in a row, he should be well versed in what he's looking at.
Yeah, well versed in what he's looking at, and certainly I think this is not as talented an A&M defense, but with Elko back in command calling it, I think that bodes well for the Aggies. But it's not a flawless Texas A&M team in my opinion. Marcel Reed has looked good running the offense and is very much a dual threat. But in talking with some coaches around the country, there's still can you keep him in the pocket and make him make the reads downfield, and how accurate is he with his downfield throws? I think that's what people are waiting to see if Marcel Reed takes that next step in his development as a quarterback, and that's something that we heard Marcus Freeman saying again today. Is like, we got to do a better job getting pressure up front. We got to do a better job getting pressure with four up front. And I think if Notre Dame can get some pressure and keep him hemmed in, then I think that we won't see Notre Dame without any takeovers, or
What
turnovers,
what
takeaways.
what I've seen that A&M's offense do is what I think we expected Notre Dame to do a little bit better against Miami. I realize Carr hadn't played yet, but when you watch A&M play this year, and of course Marcel Reed didn't play against Notre Dame last year, it's just grip it and rip it, snap it back to them, and let's go. You've got two transfer receivers in Mario Craver and Casey Concepcion, and Reed is like, there's no hesitation on his part. Let's go ahead and let it fly. They've got some good running backs. They really haven't run the football, that well yet, especially in their first game, and that's a very veteran offensive line, so it can happen to other programs besides Notre Dame, but they really haven't gotten their running game on track
Well,
yet.
my question is it going to be a healthier dose of Moss and Owens? Because what they saw movement against Notre Dame's interior defense, that's the way to soften up Notre Dame and get yourself into advantageous. You don't want Reed in 3rd and 7 very often, but Reed's a problem in 3rd and 4, I would think, against Notre Dame's defense. Can they? I think those guys have 25 carries total. And the big question there is, would they have leaned on them more against stronger defenses
I
had
think
they needed it? I think they might have.
I think that's a great point, and I think that that's absolutely true that they will. Both those guys are coming off of injuries from
Yeah,
last year.
that's right.
So I think they were very careful about how many touches that they had in the first couple games, and should be ready to roll full tilt here against Notre Dame.
Yeah, and as good as they've looked at wide receiver, let's not forget they lost a five-star right before the season started. Jerome Miles suffered a leg injury, and so he's out for the entire year, or they could have been even more potentially explosive in that wide receiver unit.
Before we get to the Marcus Freeman press conference, we had some of that in Irish Illustrated instant analysis, which is posted now. But depth chart movement, none. Did not expect any officially. Not after a loss and not after week 1. That would be over knee-jerk overreaction. What that really means is there was no definitive injury. They're safe out of that situation. And Priester and Bryce, you guys both talked about Lambert and Absher listed as or, but we think that's where the movement in reality might be. Derby Lambert starting at right guard, and we posited maybe Sullivan Absher is going to start working or has started working as a reserve left tackle in addition to other duties.
Yeah, in the A&M defensive line, I mean, clearly it's not as NFL ready as last year's group that had, a first round draft choice and two second round draft choices. But again, having watched both of A&M's, first two games, there's still there's still some pretty good bodies on that defensive line. And I think I mentioned this to you, Tim. I mean, Tim, I don't like individually, I think there's some talent there. I don't think that they've coalesced yet on either line, especially their offensive line. But when I look at, I was really high on Cassius Howell, and the other day he had 3 sacks in a row, 3 snaps, 3 sacks. He looked very good.
There's a joke to be made about left tackle there, That happened.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, here he comes. Dan Hayes, who was with Pittsburgh, he's one of their defensive ends. Ryland Kennedy had their lone sack the other day. Albert Regis is the only returning starter on the inside. DJ Hicks was a highly recruited guy. There are bodies there. I just don't think that they've completely found their rhythm yet because I'm watching them and I'm like individually these guys should be shutting Utah State down and UTSA down, and they had some difficulty doing it. So I mean they're still we have a tendency to look at Notre Dame and Notre Dame only, and I get it, especially when you lose a game where you didn't play well. But others go through this too, and I think Texas A&M's going through it a little bit as well.
Yeah, and just quickly on that right guard situation, I wanted to share Marcus's direct quote, and he said they're still slashed for this week, which means they're listed as or on the depth chart. They're still slashed for this week as we move forward, but I'm not saying that we're going to play them both this week. We haven't made that decision yet. I think the fact that he voluntarily said that doesn't mean we're going to play them both this week lets you know that they're trending toward putting the one guy in there and trying to have him do the game beginning to end.
Yeah, and let's remember the one time, I shouldn't say the one time, the notable time that Notre Dame has alternated linemen at one spot was in 2017. It was their Joe Moore award-winning line. But that's because Kramer and Hainsey made them do it. According to
Absolutely.
Harry Heastand, he said he
Absolutely.
made me play him along with Tommy Kramer, and they had different strengths as well. Obviously, Hainsey was quick at right tackle. Kramer was a guard playing right tackle, but that was a mauling offense, so having a guard playing right tackle at time was fine. I don't think that's the situation here. I think not that Absher and Lambert both didn't deserve it, but I think Lambert could have secured that earlier if he had been available earlier over the course of the summer, and that might have necessitated this. Tim, the one question I have, game number 3, does that help Mike Elko's defense coalesce a little more with all those pieces?
It should because they played a lot of bodies against two
Yeah.
teams they were going to beat. They gave up 22 points and 24 points. They had a cushion offensively because Marcel Reed got things going with the receivers, even though the running backs didn't. But yeah, I would think so. Again, still individual pieces that I think have stood out more individually than they have collectively. And it'll be very interesting to see how they attack Notre Dame's offensive line, considering that Notre Dame's offensive line was a little bit too forgiving against Miami.
You guys have any wrap up takeaways? I know we touched on it for 9, 10 minutes instant analysis, but I don't know if I got this point across in instant analysis where Freeman talked about second level tackling, what wasn't their standard, wasn't what he expected. He also mentioned a lot of our missed tackles were actually right there in line of scrimmage, which is a little tougher for them to grade, I'm sure. But he did mention it's week 2. You can't exactly put the team through the ringer trying to make tackling better now. So he said, we will not, and have not, I assume, tackle to the ground. We're not tackling our players to the ground. We need to preserve them for the year. But he mentioned that when you thud, you got to actually thud. It is a thud means stop them completely in their tracks. There's no movement from the ball carrier's feet. And I found that interesting. I never really heard. I know there could be a lazy thud and a real thud, but obviously he's looking for some type of extra physicality and velocity in practice, knowing that it's week 2 and you can't exactly tackle Jadarian Price to the ground as running back 1B.
And one other thing that I would note would be in talking about that A&M defense coalescing against Notre Dame offense that's only played 58 plays. It's all it had in that game at Miami, as we noted, and it didn't play all 58 plays with all five offensive linemen playing together,
Yeah.
both because of the planned rotation at right guard, and then because of Knapp having to go out and Wagner, being struggling at the end there. Whereas conversely now, because it's played two games, that Texas A&M defense, I just looked it up. I think they've been on the field for 67 plays against UTSA and something around 64, 66 plays this past weekend against Utah State. So not that every defensive starter played every single one of those plays, but that's an A&M defense now
Yeah.
that has almost 140 plays together against the Notre Dame offense, again, that's only had 58 snaps together and not uniformity along its offensive line.
This
And
is also
go ahead, Tim.
well, I just want to mention this. I know I'll talk about as the week goes on, but this is a good special teams matchup. And now this is you don't hear this very often. Randy Bond, who's the returning kicker for them that made 20 out of 24 field goals, he was beaten out by Jared Zirkel. You don't normally hear something like that
It's
happen.
the Nick Tausch of
Yeah,
2010. Yeah, that happened to him.
exactly. Yeah. And then their punter, Tyler White, is a left-footed punter, so that can be a little bit tricky for the return guys. But in terms of return guys, Casey Concepcion is a punt returner. He had an 80-yarder. That was the first score of the year for Texas A&M. And then Terry Bussey's been really, really good on kick returns. So this is a really good matchup, really good challenge for Marty Biagi's group.
I feel like Terry Bussey was all over our podcast last year because when you open with A&M, you talk about every single possible human on the team, and Terry
Yeah.
Bussey was the freshman that we all talked about. In terms of offsetting a coalescing defense, Notre Dame would do well to maintain possession a little more here, guys. The first 40 minutes of the game against Miami were comprised of these possessions: punt, fumble, punt, punt, long touchdown drive, half with one snap, punt. And five of those seven possessions were 3 plays or fewer.
Oof.
So you cannot get a rhythm on offense when that happens. And of course, things change after 40 minutes. But when things change after 40 minutes and you make a frantic comeback, even when you had a chance at winning, it doesn't feel like things went right. Is that fair? Even though it
Oh,
might not be fair to a
absolutely.
coach? Yeah. It certainly didn't feel like that was
You have
a
to you
game.
have to win that game in overtime, or in order
Yeah.
to be able to sweep some of that under and say, well, hey, game one, game two will get better second time through. Feelings are it's just it's pretty wild as to what if Carter Davis misses a 47 yarder.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's a different feel to it, but
Absolutely, absolutely.
I don't know how you guys bet your bye weekend, but week two for us, people keep telling me it's week three. It's not. I do not count week zero. So week two of college football, marched on without Notre Dame. It's always good to move up. Priester and JB for a Notre Dame team when you don't play, move up to eighth in the country. But that once again is the perception of Notre Dame's program right now. Much different than it was 2 years ago, I think, in this situation. Uh, Original line for this game was an absurd 10 way back in July. That always seemed a little weird. Went to 7 pretty quickly. Now 6.5 makes a lot of sense. Over under has gone up, guys. 51.5 for the A&M game.
Did
I
he?
stick towards the under, but
I don't know. I like Notre Dame with that. I mean, I like Notre Dame. I could see it going over just because last year was the safest bet in the world.
yeah. Oh,
Was,
yeah.
was was the under in that game one. It doesn't feel as safe a bet to me this year because the dynamics of the A&M offense and because we know that Notre Dame can stretch the field and is growing its offense and has a quarterback that we heard Marcus Freeman say today, if we'll let him, CJ will bomb it down the field every single snap. So you have to think they'll do a better job of getting Jay Love involved this week. We still are, there's a lot of that offense we obviously have not yet seen from Notre Dame. And so, yeah, the 6.5 point line, I think makes a lot of sense to me. Home field advantage is significant. That's what, 3 points or 3.5 points there. So,
Well, especially at night. Notre Dame has had a very good night crowd.
correct.
Like they've been firing up at night. It's been pretty impressive.
Yeah. John, I'm of the same mindset as far as offense and the potential for scoring. Because again, having watched two full games of Texas A&M, it just strikes me it's like
Yeah, they're scoring.
they're I mean they're going for it. They're gonna spread the field. Defensively, they're going to. I just was reminded of this. You're going to see a lot of guys at the line of scrimmage sometimes that's really going to try to put pressure on a young quarterback. But I see Notre Dame opening it up a little bit more downfield, really kind of by Marcus Freeman's own admission to some extent. And then just having seen what I've seen with A&M, they wanted to be aggressive in the early games to try it all out, and I think they'll be aggressive against Notre Dame on Saturday.
Before we go to segment two, team of the year so far, South Florida. You guys agree?
Oh man, very
Yeah, Miami.
impressive.
Guess, do you guys know the line for the Miami game? Miami
No,
hosts South Florida. This is exorbitant. 17 and a half.
whoa. Well,
Wow.
their quarterback's a little unorthodox. You see his throwing motion; it's pretty unorthodox, but that's a group that believes.
I'd be
Yeah.
interesting to see
And
Miami's approach to this one compared to Notre Dame. But go
they're
ahead,
playing
JB.
with, I was just gonna say they're kind of playing with house money already because they just throttled Boise State and then scored the big win against Florida. This game is absolutely zero worries for South Florida from a standpoint of what it can mean big picture because they've already generated considerable equity in their first two wins of the season. And when you look at that South Florida schedule, they've got a tough test, I think, at Memphis a little later in the year, and they've got Navy a little later in the year. But it's not at all inconceivable to think they could be the G5 playoff
Yeah,
representative this year.
I
And
didn't see how high they jumped up. Did you, Tim? You
It
have that in
moved
front
into
of
18.
you? 18. And they were a 17 and a half point favor last week, or underdog last week.
They play Florida Atlantic, so they should demand to play Florida State and try to become state champs if they can beat Miami, because that would be fun for South Florida, and I think all the South Florida fans. They could hang a banner like Central Florida did. That'd be good for them too. Yes. With football season now in full swing, I've been looking to find the best deal on Notre Dame tickets, both for family and friends, but also as a memorable gift idea. That's why I want to offer the sponsor of today's segment one, SeatGeek, a huge shout out. With over 35 million downloads, SeatGeek is the number one rated ticketing app. There are more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports, festivals, and more. So whether you're an Irish fan looking for a ticket to this week's home opener versus A&M, or any of college football's season-defining matchups down the road, SeatGeek has your back. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting a good deal. Look for the green dots. Green means good, red means bad. Plus, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. And of course, I have a code for you guys. You can use Irish10, that's all capitalized Irish and the number 10, for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with promo code Irish10. But make sure you click on the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. Thank you, SeatGeek. We will be back with segment two, Burning Up the Boards. Segment two, Burning Up the Boards, is brought to you by the RV Manufactured Housing Hall of Fame in Elkhart, Indiana. In addition to the museum and various exhibition halls, the campus is open to the public for free camping and is less than an hour from Notre Dame's campus. No reservation is required. So whether you're looking to learn more about the history of recreational vehicles in the Kindlin Library or simply a cost-effective, interesting place to stay on your family road trip, the RV Manufactured Housing Hall of Fame can provide exactly what you're looking for. Our first question today, brought to us by Manin T. This will sound sarcastic, but it's not meant to be. There's your disclaimer, guys. You have all seemingly fluctuated between, quote, this was a good road loss against the top 10 opponent in the first week while breaking in a new quarterback, to our offensive line is in flux, our receivers are still very much unproven, our coordinators make questionable calls with both players and play callings, and our defensive line shows significant holes. So which one is it? And are the issues fixable? Or do the multitude of issues portend to underwhelming season?
Yeah.
I don't think you are on bridge jumping mode right now. If you're Notre Dame, like you didn't play at all your best. We heard Marcus Freeman acknowledge today that Drake Bowen didn't play the way that Drake Bowen expected to play or the way that Drake Bowen prepares to play. He also said Emil Wagner, similarly along those lines, among any number of players. I think we all said going into the season we were legitimately concerned about the Notre Dame defensive interior. I think that until we're proven otherwise, it's fair to continue to have concerns about that. I don't think that there was anything. I mean, Notre Dame did not play a particularly good game and lost 27 to 24 to a team that we all think, we meaning media across the country, think is a top 10 team. We don't know that for sure yet, just like we don't know for sure yet that Notre Dame should be number eight, but Notre Dame has the roster composition to be number eight, and there's a lot of good about this Notre Dame team. So I don't think we're in a position to say portend an underwhelming season. If Notre Dame's 0-2 when we're doing the podcast next Monday, then submit this question again.
I was never of the mindset that it was a good road loss Saturday. I just mentioned that in segment one as what you can feel after you beat Texas A&M, provide you beat them. But Notre Dame didn't play well enough for you to say, "Oh, well, that was a good loss." That was the last thing on my mind. It was a missed opportunity. They weren't as aggressive as they needed to be. They didn't seem to have the confidence that they needed. So I was never in that first group. Now, if you win this game, you can look at it a little bit more philosophically. You're 1-1. You're back in line. You're solidly within the top 10, and you control your own destiny. But that's nothing coming out of Miami had me in that mindset about it's okay the way they played. They played poorly. It wasn't okay.
Now, two things are true. It wasn't okay how they played, and people view it as a tough road loss against a top 10 opponent on the
Yep.
road by 3 points. Because let me ask you guys something. You guys watched the Texas Ohio State game, right? Did you sit there and be like, man, Texas really came out to play today. They really deserve this victory. Or you just say, well, they lost to Ohio State on the road to start the season, so everything's going to be fine for them, I'm sure. It's the exact same thing. Like, we analyze every play of the Notre Dame game 3 different times. Everybody else that moves Notre Dame from number 9 to number 8 or whatever else they're doing just goes, what'd they lose by again? Oh, yeah, they came all the way back. It was 27-24 in a last second field goal. So two things are definitely true. We try to present everything we have to do for our jobs, but also you got to say once in a while, maybe everybody should calm down. They lost by 3 on the road to a team that's now in the top 5. They didn't lose to South Florida, right?
Right.
Maybe
Right.
South Florida will be good, but
Right.
Miami certainly has the benefit of the doubt over South Florida. Look at the line.
But you've got to beat Texas A&M for that
Oh, yeah,
for that
yeah.
to
And they are
actually.
ranked after one game. They're not ranked assuming they're going to lose to Texas A&M. They're ranked just by what they've done, and what they've done, nationally speaking, didn't do that much damage. Although I will say, had they won that game and then beat A&M, you'd be
Yeah.
viewed so strongly by the public. So that's an opportunity lost.
No
Yeah, I
doubt.
think I think if they were on the cusp of being a 2-0 team, that they'd probably be the number 2 team in the country.
Yeah, that's and properly so because we know the number
Yeah.
one team.
We have a
I'm gonna ask
question
this.
from.
I'm gonna ask this, Tim, because it's to you.
Okay. Okay.
From Ed Madden, Tim Priester said multiple times in the last podcast that Emil Wagner was physically compromised, quote unquote. Is that from the coaching staff or Tim's opinion? I just haven't seen anything about it anywhere else. And Ed has asked this a couple times since our original incident
Okay.
analysis. That's
Yeah.
why I wanted to
Well,
include it.
I mean, Marcus Freeman volunteered that Wagner didn't play very well, and that's fair enough. I'm commenting specifically about the last series because there's no way that
Right.
that a guy that's preparing to go to the NFL after this year just loses his blocking technique as badly as he did. I haven't asked anybody. I'm probably not going to ask anybody because there's no way that Emil Wagner is going to take reps like he did at the end unless something is physically bothering him. And I just felt like the way he moved, having watched athletes move for decades and decades, something was wrong. He couldn't move his feet, and then he widened his arms and used a technique that he would never use. So I don't know. At this point, I don't. It doesn't. I don't really care. It doesn't matter if he broke down like that. That's a really, really bad sign that this guy. I mean, I think he's closer to being an NFL player than anything that showed. I would be really, really surprised if it wasn't something that was physically hampering him.
I think by game's end, he had been physically hampered, but only by the humidity, if by something. I think he
Yeah.
did not look himself. That's for sure. We saw him against an even better player last year physically hold his own against Penn State. Like, you get beat because it's Abdul Carter, but
Yeah.
he was unable to compete at the end of that game. And I knew what you meant, but Ed had asked this question several times. And physically compromised could mean we knew he was battling a hamstring injury, which we do not, to be clear. We just thought he did not look like Emil Wagner at all.
He looked like a guy that was dehydrated. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. No, that's the fairest way to say it. He did. Our third question. This is good for the upcoming week. From Breaking Ankles. I wonder if it's a basketball guy. It's good. Who would you like to interview this week, and what would you ask him? But also, what would you ask him off the record? I think he means our week for Notre Dame football. That's a good question.
Yeah, John.
I'd probably go Chris Ash. Ask him on the record how he felt the transition back into college coaching went, anything about the flow of the game surprised him. What did he, when he watched the game on film afterwards, were there anything that were consistent or that were carryover items that caused some of the breakdowns? We heard Marcus Freeman talk today about the guys getting washed out of their gaps or not staying in their gaps, having gap discipline. So was there something overarching that translated across all of those missed assignments? And then, off the record, I would probably ask how much they coach playing through the ball and not have the ball play you.
Yeah, that's a good one, John. I would go immediately to both line coaches. I would love to hear what Al Washington would have to say about the way his interior defensive line played. I wanted one of the questions I wanted to ask Marcus Freeman today, and I've asked about him fairly recently, but not since he played as well as he did, Jared Dawson. I'd be very curious as to hear what the take is on him because I thought he was mostly sensational against Miami. And then off, Joe Rudolph. Joe Rudolph's a pretty good interview when you can dig in with him a little bit. I'd love to know what he said. Marcus Freeman talking about the offensive lineman playing too laterally last week. For an offensive defensive line driven program, that was not Notre Dame putting its best foot forward last week.
On the record, so I'm hoping it's Coach Sider just for the story. I do want to ask him, how do you balance the Jadarian Price, he's a senior, Jadarian Price's fumble with the fact that he had led Notre Dame in yards rushing for the game, and he only carried the ball on that series. 6 carries for 45 yards for Jadarian Price. Do you, regret's the wrong word, but do you have to overlook that one instance of ball
It's a
security
good
when he
question.
is your offensive spark? And then off the record, I'd love to know if Rudolph was comfortable with his second unit offensive line because we pointed out last year he did the best job you can imagine by starting 10 different guys up front. He was definitely comfortable with 9.75 of them, I think, in that situation. He'd have been more comfortable putting in Tosh Baker at left tackle to end that game than he had to be a rookie. So I think that could lead us in other questions like the three-man battle for right guard with Will Black, with Kirby Lambert, with
Yeah.
Sullivan Absher, all those things.
Uh, my question off the record would coincide with what I asked Marcus Freeman on the record, which was essentially, you talked about playing hard. I screwed up actually the question when I but didn't play hard enough for long enough. Um, what's the deal? I mean, yeah, I asked him on the record and got a diplomatic answer, but I would really like to know off the record what led Notre Dame to miss their mark so much. We were so accustomed to
That's the
them being
thing.
a,
Yeah.
yeah, they were we just figured that, okay, it's going to be a carryover from January. And
That's fair though, Tim. It was week one. Like if that was week five and you stuck Miami in the middle of the schedule, you'd be like, all right, I get it. It happens. This is just a weird one for week one.
it is, but I mean, it's one thing to play poorly. It's another to play without passion.
Mm.
And we said that last Saturday night. And so just curious, that's the kind of thing. Did you, Marcus Freeman motivates so much. And is it overload? I just wonder. He's a tremendous motivator, but sometimes is it overload? Even players are overloaded by that emotional, some of the emotional baggage that goes with being intense all the time.
You know what my concern is on this? And I'm not sure it's true or not. This is my concern. They were absolutely fine and up for the game, and the offensive line couldn't do a single thing, so they never had the ball for 40 minutes. That is very possible. And the
That's fair.
defensive tackles just weren't good enough, and they got moved.
Well, that's where JB's real-time
Yeah.
tabulations come into play.
Yeah, real world minutes rather than game minutes. Yeah, that's always fun. JB, don't have a good one this game, please. We don't want another Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. The last time they got the ball, O'Malley was eating a turkey sandwich with scorpion peppers on it, and then it wasn't until we were up at the yeah. So we don't want any of that.
Yeah, no, hopefully it's something like we're chronicling that you were sweating before the A&M offense, but the A&M offense sweated the whole second half. Something
Yes.
with those. I just hope I'm not seated next to you in the press box if you're bringing Scorpions or Ghost or
Come on, I've
Carolina.
handled this all except for one ill-fated attempt at a Carolina Reaper. So there we
And
go.
those were from my wife, right?
Yes,
Those
they
were,
were. They were. They
yeah, I'm
broke me a
proud of
little
that.
bit that they broke me just a little bit that day. Our next question comes from JC 1978. This is a great question because we've talked about it. Although ND found a way to beat Penn State, the fact is our D line lost that battle in the trenches over the last 3 games. So he's saying Penn State, Ohio State, Miami. We will now face a team that arguably has a better offensive line than Miami. What leads you to believe we can win that battle? Or more important, if we lose trench warfare again, how does Notre Dame still win the game?
I disagree with losing the D line battle against Penn State. They did in the first half, and Penn State fans would say that they lost the D line battle because in the second half, Notre Dame dominated the trenches. So I disagree with that. I don't think that I think if you lose trench warfare again, you're 0-2.
I do too. Not necessarily if you win. If you win on one side, I think you can. It just comes down to something different, of course. But if you lose both sides, you're 0-2 for sure.
Yeah, and Notre Dame tied into that is Notre Dame has to do a better job getting off the field on the money downs, third or fourth down. So I think that's in direct correlation. Can they win if they lose the trench warfare battle? If it's close to a stalemate and you feel like they lost it, that's one thing. If they're getting gashed and blown off the ball and A&M's averaging 8 yards a rush, then yeah, it's hard to win a game like that.
A&M essentially they lost the line of scrimmage against UTSA.
I thought,
Yeah. Again, I just want to find out if that plays out when. Although the line of scrimmage is not something you're hiding when you're preparing for a stronger foe. It's not schematics. To lose the line of scrimmage is never schematics. So that's a good point. To Priester, to your points, yeah, with Penn State in the second quarter, when you say they dominated the first half, Penn State the second quarter's rushing advantage was 86-2. Turned around a little bit thereafter
It
because
turned
Notre Dame
around
was
big time.
yeah, I mean it was pretty important that in the rushing in the third quarter Notre Dame was 55 and Penn State was -3, so it
Right.
did turn around a
So
lot. I will if you're a Notre Dame fan you'll take that 55 to -3 for an 88-2 offset, but yeah it's I think we agree Penn State was physically
oh,
stronger than Notre Dame during that game, and Notre Dame was a tougher mental team. Is how I look at that game.
no, that's fair. But the statement was
Right, the
lost the
statement was
battle in the trenches, and Penn State lost it when the game mattered when it mattered the most.
right, right. That's crucial.
Question from Malloy on base. With Notre Dame still ranked number 8 despite a loss, how much of that is brand recognition versus actual performance metrics?
um, I think. I think it's a combination of brand recognition while also respecting that Notre Dame, again, didn't play well and didn't get blasted out of Hard Rock Stadium on a weekend where, Clemson was at home and couldn't score at home in the final 34 minutes of the game, or Alabama was at an FSU team that lost 10 games a year ago and got manhandled. So I don't think it's all just like, oh, that Notre Dame's Notre Dame brand recognition. I also do think Notre Dame is benefiting from its run to the playoff, to the title game last year, and the fact that it beat Georgia and beat Penn State along that run. The fact that it opened last year with a win at Texas A&M, it closed the 22 season with a win against SEC program South Carolina in the bowl game. So Notre Dame under Marcus Freeman, I think, has begun to change the narrative against some of these other teams, and we know Notre Dame has recruited under Marcus Freeman with more of what I would consider an SEC style approach to their recruiting.
And I think that's what the brand recognition he's talking about, JB, is that they have some equity built up from what they did. Not just that they're Notre Dame and other people
Right.
aren't, but their brand recognition has been built part on last year. But to be fair, I looked this up real fast. All right, you guys will be surprised by this. FEI, which is the Fremo Efficiency Index, and I use this because Notre Dame coaches use this, including Mason and Biaggi, have noted that this is their metric for measuring all things college football. Notre Dame is ranked sixth overall in FEI right now. You know what Miami's ranked? 15th. Miami's offense is ranked fifth. Notre Dame is ranked 12th nationally. Notre Dame's defense after that performance is ranked third. Do you know what Miami is? 48th.
How is that?
There's some
Can
metrics
can you
involved
explain it?
that we are not looking. No, I can't. But
Oh,
there's some metrics involved that we are looking at here. S&P, Miami 27, Notre Dame 18. Like people
that's
believe
pretty
Notre Dame
wild.
should be better. Yes,
Yeah, that's wild. When I see the word brand recognition, I think that's like through the years.
I took it
I think
as
it's equity. As
yes,
you
equity.
said, that I would agree with. And I thought the media hated Notre Dame. So how did they move up? I'm always told that they're biased against Notre Dame. So how
They
did they move up?
maybe they looked at the FEI index, the FEI.
Maybe they must have. They must have.
Our next question is a two-parter from MN Irish 2019, and I don't apologize, but I'm just going to let you know I truncated your question. Excluding the run game, which was clearly neglected, did you feel ND left some meat on the bone with what it was calling offensively, Miami? And from Cody Smith, do you think ND is going to come out and try to prove a point, so to speak, running the ball down their throats, or will they try to allow Carr to move the ball downfield rather than horizontal throws? Which is more likely if you had to choose? Attack north-south, proving a point, or let's start attacking downfield?
Yeah, I don't think Notre Dame's in a proving a point mode. I wouldn't use that terminology. Did they leave meat on the bone? Well, yeah, absolutely. I don't know how anybody can come out of that game saying that the game was called in a proper manner. It wasn't. But I don't, I mean, I know offensive line, defensive line driven. Yeah, Notre Dame would like to run the ball down Texas A&M's throat. That would be great, but I don't think they're going to do it to prove a point. I think Carr. I think you better match Texas A&M's aggression on offense because I think A&M's going to come in here and Colin Klein's going to call a very aggressive game. They've got the components to do it. We're going at you. And I don't think Notre Dame's in a prove a point kind of mode. They want to come up with something that's the best way to attack Texas A&M, which again, individually, I see a lot of great players. A&M has not reached their peak defensively.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't say prove a point big picture. I think that Notre Dame's offensive line will feel very challenged and will want to prove that it's better than what it showed against Miami. And I do think that there was some stuff left out there that Notre Dame either didn't exploit or couldn't get a chance to exploit. And I think that I think Notre Dame figured out early that they couldn't give CJ Carr much help with the run game because they weren't moving Miami. I mean, we heard Marcus Freeman say today they were playing way too laterally as an offensive line. And I think because of that, that hampered some things that Notre Dame potentially could have done in the throw game. So I think that Notre Dame's offensive line will very much feel personally challenged. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're not hearing that on the practice field and in the Goog in the days leading into this game.
I'd be just disappointed if they don't challenge vertically in the first half, in the third quarter, in the fourth quarter. I just think that's how you complement Love and Price, not going horizontal. The horizontal game opens up when you've opened up some stuff downfield. Hitting phase on for those screens is great. You just can't have people sitting on it because then sometimes a really aggressive Miami corner runs right through your block and makes an interception happen. They deserve that. That was a happenstance interception, but Miami deserves all the credit in the world that it happened because he read the play, blew it up, knocked the ball into the air, and they hustled to the ball. So,
Well, yeah, and they got defensive linemen chasing the football. That's
right.
just
Yep.
that's just beautiful stuff. Will Lee the third is one of A&M's corners. Will the Blanket Lee is that's his nickname. So I'm interested to see that battle. But I mean, not proving a point. I would agree with JB. The offensive line certainly feels like they have a point to prove, and that's great. You want them in a very angry frame of mind. But I think Notre Dame looks for balance, Certainly, they look to get the football in the hands of Jeremiah Love. But more importantly, I think it's playing aggressive offensively because I think Texas A&M is going to play very aggressive offensively.
This is nothing against Will Lee, but that's not a great nickname like Revis
Yeah,
Island
no.
or anything. Yeah, it's not that
Yeah,
awesome.
I'm not sure that he's totally earned that yet, but that's what they
Well,
call
it
him
just
there.
doesn't sound that good, is all I'm saying. Like
I
Highway
hear you.
15 for Clifford Jefferson, that was a good nickname. That was a unfortunate good nickname.
Your point about A&M's offense being aggressive, TP, I've been looking this up, and already on the year, they have a 72-yard touchdown, an 80-yard touchdown, a 34-yard touchdown, a 22-yard touchdown, maybe a 21-yard touchdown, and one more in there. So they are not only being aggressive, but they're showing that they can score on big chunk plays.
And I think Marcel Reed is benefiting from the fact that, Elko said they wanted to get more explosive at receiver. They wanted Marcel Reed to push the football down the field. And what was the other thing? They wanted to be, they just want to be more explosive in everything. Oh, the special teams, they have an 80-yard punt return. Their kick returner, Terry Bussey's done a really nice job. I mean, they've had in 2 games, and I realize the competition, but when you combine punt returns and kick returns, they've had 6 returns of at least 34, 35 yards. So
That's
they've
pretty
been
good.
they've been very good there. Very good. We have a couple of questions from one from Indy 11. How would you distribute linebacker snaps? And then from Voice of Treason, are linebacker snaps for 4 standouts still a first world problem, or does Bullet/Ash need to get that right this weekend?
I think would be jumping the gun on this one because this is clearly a Drake Bowen question, right? Drake Bowen had 58 snaps. Kingston had 37. Snead was right there, and Osbury had 30. I mean, I'm all for Willie Amuasa getting the most snaps, but Drake Bowen ended the year, the playoff run. I just looked. 9 run stuffs in the playoffs, 3 quarterback pressures, 2 total missed tackles on all his opportunities while leading the team in tackles in that span. Notre Dame's coaching staff had no reason to believe their leader, captain, green dot guy, and middle linebacker didn't deserve those snaps. Now, if you can find a way to say, hey, something's wrong here, maybe Kingston should be getting some more snaps, I totally agree with that. But I would think we're jumping the gun a little, other than Willie Amuasa belongs on the football field.
Yeah, and Jaden Osbury played well enough against Miami that 30 snaps might not be enough for
Great.
him.
I think he deserves more than Jalen Snead in the base defense.
Yep, I tend to agree with that. I think that those 3 younger guys, we saw more out of them, even a not good game for Drake Bowen. I just don't remember Snead flashing very much against Miami. Yeah, but Bowen, to your point, Bowen's the green dot guy for a reason, and he's the leader of your defense for a reason. And Marcus said it today again. Like Drake didn't have the game he expected to have or prepared to have, but nobody prepares harder. And as we've had several questions relating to personnel, both this one specific to linebackers and big picture, I think it's important we note what did Marcus Freeman say today? He's never had more belief in his personnel than what he has in this Notre Dame team right now.
The 1 game overreaction is just like it's a given every season, whether it's really positive or negative. You don't you don't shit can your plan at linebacker based upon one game. These are proven football players. Totally agree that Willie Amoasa should get the most snaps.
Osbury
Drake
needs more.
Osbury needs
Yeah,
more. Drake Bowen needs to be on the field. And Tim, just the way I think Jalen Sneed's a really key guy, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a weak side linebacker.
it's funny because I was just like, he doesn't have to be a weak side linebacker, and this wasn't a weak side linebacker last year, but his best game other than Navy, he was great against Navy, was A&M. So I'm not sure this is the week you want to pull him either. I mean, he made that great play behind the line of scrimmage on the. It's just obviously that's different, but that was his best game last year was
Well,
A&M.
so
So
everything. So what you're saying is, don't overreact to that
yeah,
first game. You've got 4 good linebackers there.
I think Osbury is just almost gets the raw deal out of everybody all the time. I think he overperforms. He was not good at the end of the year because he was physically compromised. His elbow was really hurting, and he
Yeah.
admits he was not as good at the end of the year. But I feel like he's always played better than the snap total he gets. But it
I
might be one of
agree.
those things where I get a crusade going and I can't stop looking at the guy that's underrated. Then when you play him some more, like, oh yeah, they didn't need to play him anymore. That's too bad.
He makes plays, but
Yeah.
they've got four guys that make plays.
Yeah.
It's a good situation. You don't overreact. The only thing that I feel is a must is that KVA gets more snaps.
Our next question from Baba Ganoush. Do you all agree that Mike Elko accomplished what he wanted in AM's two tune-up games? They were comfortable wins while playing very vanilla to minimize ND scouting.
I don't think he's happy with the defense.
Probably not. He's a
I
bit of
mean,
a
they didn't run it
perfectionist.
well the first time through, and then they gave up a 75-yard touchdown run on the first play of the third quarter in week one. I don't like I understand the question's being asked in a different way, like, okay, tune up games, now you're ready to cut it loose. But since we don't follow Texas A&M, we're not as disturbed by a guy getting 175 yards
Good
rushing
call.
against them. Texas A&M's disturbed by that. That guy, I think it was Robert Henry Jr., pretty good back for UTSA. Really liked his game. And the 75 yarder was, you there's a gap, he hits it and he's
Mhm.
gone. Kind of like uh, uh, number 22, the running back for Michigan this past weekend, Justice.
Oh, he does hit it. Yes.
Yeah, he hit it, and he was gone. That's what happened here. So, I mean, point taken. They've played a lot of guys. They played a ton of guys up front, and that's the whole idea of playing two teams that you can whip. But they didn't necessarily whip them. It was not as comfortable as they would have liked. And it wasn't Eastern Washington and Fordham like a couple of Notre Dame's opponents played. It was decent. You
Did
know,
Matt
you
Zona get time for Fordham with his
no,
NIL? No? Okay.
you. I mean, Utah State's got a McCown, a left-handed pitcher, a lefty-handed quarterback throwing a football. I mean, it was actually two pretty decent opponents for them to play. UTSA, JB, you know this, they've been good. Now they took a little step back last year, but the previous 3 years they won 33 games. So
Right. Yeah, they
those are good, solid opponents to play if you're not going to go Power Four.
Yeah, and there's a big push within the state of Texas right now to see the flagship schools playing more of the satellite schools, so to speak. I would note UTSA, which again I think it was maybe 28-17 in the third quarter against
Right.
A&M. UTSA lost this weekend at home to Texas State. Now Texas State, GJ Kinney, remember the name. He's the
Oh
head
yeah.
coach. He probably will not be the head coach at Texas State next year. He'll probably be at a power conference program next year. He has worked wonders at Texas State, especially for where that program was. But that was a huge win for Texas State and a huge loss for UTSA that exposed a little bit more TP, what you just alluded to, that they faded some last year from where Jeff Traylor has had them, and they looked poised to fade some more this year, which was really unexpected.
They changed conferences last year, correct? They took a step up in conferences. Am I right on that?
Thought that might be right. Maybe they
I
went,
think so.
yeah, maybe
G-
so.
GJ Kenny from Tulsa, the quarterback?
Yes.
Okay, so that's when I got the most flack I've ever received, and it was in my second or third year doing this job. And I said when that game started in the preview at the old Irish Eyes, GJ Kenny's the best quarterback on the field Saturday when it was him and Dane Christ
You said that before the game.
before the game.
Well, that was a hell of a call.
There we go. All right, everybody, take that, GJ Kenny. I hope he gets a job wherever he wants to go. He should take over Texas for all I care. All right, final question. I'm going to read these in two parts. Glass half gallon, which is a good name. I think it means a half gallon is what full. But could Notre Dame emerge with the win Saturday? But you would still think, yeah, but they're going to drop another game this season. Let's tackle that one first because the conversely part's interesting.
Probably, if Notre Dame digs itself a big hole and is only able to win maybe on a last minute field goal, and you feel like they really fed off of the home field advantage and had some breaks go their way in the second half, but you exit leaving saying, "Gosh, Notre Dame won but got outplayed," then I think that scenario would make you say, "Okay, this team needs to improve a lot, or they're vulnerable against X, Y, and Z."
I feel like I'm really unlikely to say that if Notre Dame wins. Uh,
Yeah,
now, if you continue to play poorly on the offensive and defensive line,
it's hard to win, so you probably got to play well on one of those two to win the game,
okay,
right?
yeah, I don't, I'm not big on taking game two and then saying that is always going to impact what's to come. You know what? I don't think I'll feel that way. If Notre Dame needs to win a game, feel good about itself, get its confidence back a little bit. I don't think a Notre Dame win. I'm not anticipating coming out of that saying, "Oh man, there's trouble down the road," because Marcus Freeman develops teams. He develops us that when they struggle, they get better.
I think I was with you, but JB reminded me of a game that I could think this way. When JB said they kind of find a way to win with the crowd and the lights. Tim, what if it's like the old that Nebraska game, the 2000 game where there's a punt return touchdown, a kickoff return touchdown, you make a play on special teams and you're like, well, man, thank God for Marty Biaggi and Marcus Freeman. They just stole that one. That would be the way because that's the only
All right,
way you get out. You kind of get erased in the lines, but
point taken.
and
Point
because they are
taken.
they are a capable team of doing those things. Like they could block a punt, they could do a fake, they could do a lot of things
They could
and
return.
score
Yeah,
goals.
absolutely.
The other part of this, the inverse would be: could Notre Dame emerge with a loss Saturday that would make you say, "Yeah, it doesn't matter. These teams winning 10 in a row."
I
That's
don't
hard to
think.
think
I
of.
don't. I don't think so. No, I don't. I don't. I don't think so.
No, we obviously have seen them win 10 plus in a row like we did last year, but 0 and 2, and it's just all the pressure in the world at that point to get back. Marcus Freeman might call it for this team to reach its full potential, but after you've run all the way to the national championship game, you don't expect the next year's team's full potential to not include a playoff
Yeah.
appearance.
A more realistic positive spin on that question would be: I think Notre Dame could lose one scrimmage battle and win the other and emerge as the
Okay.
victor because they
Yeah.
have players and they have the home field and everything.
I
And that
don't.
would be a positive
I
sign.
mean, I think we need to keep in mind, and I do this based upon the first rate series, which I know is not an exact science over the course of the summer. But after these two teams, there's no one on the schedule that has
Up
this
front,
level of
physically, yeah.
talent. However, Pittsburgh played Duquesne for the first time, a fellow Pittsburgh team. They played 75 years. They haven't played each other,
Did
which
Mark
is
Stevenson play? I'm going to go on a basketball transfer list here. So there you go.
no, but none of these other teams are close to Miami and A&M level talent. But Pittsburgh is doing all the things that you would I was concerned about preseason. They haven't played the level. I get that. But like somebody asked about how can you, because I put out like a two-game analysis of the 10, 11 remaining opponents. How do you know when most of those teams are playing bad teams? The same way I do when I watch a recruit. You have to block out the people around you. And is that a big time player? Okay, that's a big time player. I don't care what's happening around him. That's how I've always tried to judge it, for right or wrong. Certainly not right all the time.
Like Arch
But
Manning
did,
Yeah.
did he throw five touchdown passes?
did.
And how many of them were off target, or the
Yeah.
receiver had to adjust to it, or he was wide open?
He's having a
I
rough start to the season on Irish Illustrated, Arch Manning. I know
I
that.
I I just
I would
I
note on Pitt. Oh, sorry, TP, go ahead.
no, that's all right. That's it. Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, I mean, that was a tight game with Central Michigan, a rebuilding Central Michigan team that's under the first year leadership of Matt Drinkle, a former top assistant for Jeff Monken at Army. But it was 24-17 late in the third quarter. So I just think that this Pitt team has a lot of warts and is not remotely what Narduzzi's two teams. Pitt won. 12 ACC games combined in 21-22 and won an ACC championship along the way. Pitt has lost 11 ACC games the last 2 years combined. And I just think that that's a Pitt program that has stalled out and is going to be fairly middling this year. And talked with some coaches over the weekend who their team didn't play and they watched that game closely and they just feel like that Pitt's got some definite losses ahead of it in
I think
AC.
that's more of a reflection of Narduzzi not having them ready to play on a regular basis, as opposed to just flat out lacking talent. That defensive front seven's good, man. It's
Yeah,
good.
the defense is
That
good.
Desmond Reed is a breakaway guy at running back.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
they do some unsound things on offense that are kind of bizarre. So, Cade Bell is their offensive coordinator in his
oh, okay,
second year,
interesting.
who made the jump up from Western Carolina. It was, I don't know how popular that choice was
Yeah,
in the
I think Eli
process.
Holstein is going to have a really big year.
On that note, we have more podcasts this week. We have one Thursday after Marcus Freeman. We will not talk about Pitt on that podcast. We promise you guys. It'll be all A&M. I'll be on Giga Maggie with our old friend Carter Carroll's Wednesday. And of course, we'll have another Irish Illustrated instant analysis Tuesday after interviews. We don't know yet, JB. Do we know yet officially or not officially?
I
We
didn't
don't know who we
see.
may get for that game.
Yeah, we're going to get Mike Mickens from a coaching staff standpoint, Jaden Greathouse. It seemed like four different positions. Jadarian Price, and
Ah,
then
good.
a couple
Okay.
of defensive players. So I think there were four different position groups represented, and then Mike Mickens from the coaching staff.
And Tim, I'm going to be with Carter Carroll's son Friday for CBS Day.
Nice. There we
So
go.
yeah,
Nice.
we're doubling up with Carter, who was worked at South Bend Tribune back in the
Yeah,
day.
for a long time. And he did great work for us last year because we had a 9 month lead up to the Texas A&M game, and he was all over Irish Illustrated back then. So until then, for Tim Priester of Irish Illustrated, John Bryce of Football Scoop, I'm Tim O'Malley. Thanks for watching and listening. Irish Illustrated Insider.